Hey, folks, good evening and welcome to Phantoms and Monsters Radio, where the veil between the known and the unknown is lifted one story at a time. I welcome you and all our listeners, as well as first timers in the chat. I hope that you find tonight's subjects and reports interesting. Now, modern day dinosaurs, flying reptiles, and aquatic monsters in North America. Well, from the dusty trails of Texas to the shadowed pines of South Carolina, modern day witnesses are reporting encounters with creatures that defy science, logic, and everything we thought we knew about extinction. So this week on Phantoms and Monsters Radio, we take a deep into the world of bizarre, prehistoric-like beings and seen in modern times. Miniature T-Rexes sprinting across roads, enormous winged reptiles blotting out the sun, and lake monsters surfacing in unexpected waters. Witnesses across the USA are sharing extraordinary experiences. Stories that include shadow chasing raptors in the Pine Barrens, screeching bipedal beast in Texas, and leathery-winged creatures flying silently above cars in Alabama. From flying pterosaurs with putrid-smelling mucus trails to immense birds feeding on deer carcasses in Illinois, these reports are eerily consistent across decades and regions. Are we witnessing a ripple in time, a hidden lineage, or something far stranger? Also features is a chilling aquatic encounter at Pennsylvania's Raystown Lake, where an enormous serpent-like entity with forward-facing eyes rose from the water before vanishing without a trace. And don't miss the account of a Florida government official who watched a serpentine giant undulate across the lake like something out of an ancient myth. Are these animal relics of a forgotten age, cryptid anomalies, or undiscovered species that have eluded detection? So join us as we dive headfirst into these incredible accounts and explore whether real-life dinosaurs still walk, fly, and swim among us. Now, please support the channel by clicking on the subscribe and like buttons and by sharing our programming. Super chat and super thanks donations are appreciated. And you can click the dollar icon located below the chat box. Other donation links are also described in the chat or in the description below. So thanks for your consideration. Your comments are always welcome. Tell me or the moderators which accounts you find interesting in the presentation or suggestions for upcoming shows. I want to thank everyone associated with this channel. So now that you're in the chat and if you have a question, please use all caps and I'll try to get to each one of them after the presentation. And again, become a Phantoms and Monsters Radio member. It's only $2.99 a month. All kinds of different tiers and community perks. Do you have a suggestion for a perk? You know, we're listening. Phantoms and Monsters is built by the community for the community. So in this first account, the witness tells me that during October 2014, during a late colleague J.C. Johnson's appearance on Coast to Coast AM, a caller described a mini T-Rex encounter in West Texas. I want to share an experience I had when I was about 13 or 14 years old. Now, at the time, I was living in Midland, Texas, and my friends and I used to ride our motorcycles in the desert or outside of town. Now, one day, we encountered something hard to describe. I remember seeing this creature, which was probably about 2 feet tall. It stood on its back legs. It didn't have the typical fingers you'd expect from a T-Rex in the movies. It only had one claw. We were riding our motorcycles and I guess we scared it off. It was kind of a greenish yellow in color, and honestly, I never thought much about it at the time. I just assumed it was some weird lizard, but I clearly remember that when it stood up, it had an egg-shaped dome on its head. There were 4 of us, and when we first saw it, it was crawling on all 4s. And as we rode closer, it reared up, showing its little arms. It looked like a miniature T-Rex. For a long time, I thought I missed it or maybe saw it wrong. It wasn't until years later when I heard a call on Art Bell's show that described a similar encounter with T-Rex that I realized what I had seen. The creature seemed angry. It wasn't happy that my friends and I were riding our dirt bikes in the area. So this next account, the witness states, it was somewhere in South Carolina. My boyfriend at the time and I were driving to Myrtle Beach. I'm not a good passenger, tend to wig out on the interstate, so we were taking the back roads. It was pretty late at night. We had just gone through a little podunk town, and we're in the woods. And there's a lot of pine trees in the woods. He was driving. I looked over at him. Through the window on his side, it looked like someone's laundry had come off the line and was gently blowing around, like a big bed sheet getting hit by a gust of wind. Except we were in the woods, and there were too many trees around for it to be laundry blowing around. So I'm looking dead at this big white thing, and my brain couldn't wrap around what it was, but it was coming straight at the car. The closest thing I can think of would be a pterodactyl. I'm panicking and positive we're going to die. So I'm screaming, go, go, go. My eyes were squeezed shut. And there is no way in hell I'm going to watch it kill us. Of course, we get away. But when we looked at the car, there was a big smear on the driver's side window. We weren't drunk or high or, we recently released from a psych facility. Any insight you could offer would be great. I've talked to other people about it, and no one has had a similar experience. I can't find anything like it online. The closest thing I found is a thunderbird, but this thing was not dark in color. Any ideas? So I get back to the witness, and I asked if she could offer any more details. She said the date was between 2004 and 2005 during the summer. I know that it doesn't narrow it down much. I did get an overwhelming negative feeling from it. I felt like it was coming for us, not just passing by. We were coming from Roanoke, Virginia, and got the directions from MapQuest. I've lost contact with my boyfriend. I'm pretty sure, he sold the car. Now, that slimy smear Never did come off the window. It was greenish gray in color. I remember thinking it was weird that it wouldn't come off and we could scrape it off somehow and send it to a lab. Now, I don't remember the name of the town, but I do remember thinking how much it looked like my dad's town. He lived in Bowman, South Carolina. It was a rural area, no stop lights. If you blink, you miss it. Now, I explained to the witness that there had been pterosaur sightings throughout the world. There had been sightings between Greenville and Florence, South Carolina in 2007 by a witness named Susan Wooten. So let's say hypothetically that these sightings were related. The witness's route of travel from Roanoke, Virginia to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina could have intersected Susan Wooten's trek near Florence, South Carolina, or in or around Florence County, which is also very near Bishopville, the home of the lizard man. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any relation or not, but it's an interesting account. So a witness contacted me about a sighting of a huge prehistoric looking bird that blocked the sky in front of their car while driving near Round Lake Beach, Illinois, which is in Lake County. Now the witness states, "Dear Lon, after reading your recent post, I want to share our encounter with you. Now, back in the summer of 2002, during the late morning to early afternoon, we were driving south on Highway 83, leaving Round Lake Beach, Illinois, going towards Grays Lake, when we were startled by something large and black crossing in front of the car and landing in a small open area of brush to our left. One wing easily filled the entire view ahead of us. We saw that one huge blackbird that had landed next to another and that they were devouring what looked like a small deer or large dog. It was just for an instant, but they were prehistoric looking and larger than the local turkey buzzards. We watched the evening news thinking that some large vultures may have escaped the zoo, but we saw no mention of any such creatures. We often wondered if anyone else had seen these large blackbirds in northern Illinois. Thank you for posting the article and let me know that I wasn't the only one who saw this." Well, we've been getting these sightings in and around the Chicago area for quite a while now. This was just west of Chicago. So it could have been, there are a lot of pterosaur sightings and thunderbird sightings in that area as well, the upper Midwest. So I don't know what they saw, but it's kind of conducive with what we have been receiving off and on during these sightings of the Chicago Mothman. Now, I have a couple or several reports of T-Rex-like creatures from multiple eyewitnesses in South Texas. Now, the first witness states, "Hello, Lon. During December 2011, my friend saw what she described as a small dinosaur here in town, right on a main street. It was around 8:45 p.m. when she noticed it crossing the street. She saw the shape clearly as it passed in front of another car's headlights on the opposite side of the street. Strangely, the driver of the other car didn't seem to notice the creature as it went by. She tried to call me to tell me about it, but her phone was out for minutes. Just a few months before that, I had an encounter that I can only describe as similar to a dinosaur. I had been asleep one night, probably around 1 or 2 a.m., when I woke up to an unfamiliar screech of something running by my window. Now, we have an AC unit installed, so the window was open. I heard its heavy footsteps as it ran past, and as it got further away, I heard it screech again. It was a sound like nothing I'd ever heard in my life, and it was loud. I wondered if anyone else had heard or seen it. Now, I live in an apartment complex, and I just lay there in bed, completely bewildered by what I had just experienced. I questioned my sanity and whether I really heard what I thought I had heard. So when my friend saw the dinosaur, she was excited to tell me because of my earlier experience. I was just sad that I didn't get to see it too. We both questioned our sanity. After all this, the stories you posted have helped me feel better, and I'm not so crazy. And this was in Hebbronville, Texas, and this is an area where we've had a lot of these sightings. Then I received another report from a witness who states, "Hello, I noticed your article about small dinosaurs in Hebbronville, Texas. This witness was not exaggerating because I've seen an unknown animal in a field here in Hebbronville. It was April 2011, and I was walking along West David Street to my friend's house in Rendata Road about 5:45 p.m. I had just gotten off work. Now, on the side of the road where I was walking, I saw dust being kicked up into the air and moving about the field. When the trail of dust was heading toward the road in front of me, I stopped walking, not knowing what might be exiting onto the road. About 40 feet in front of me was what I can only describe as a little T Rex dinosaur, about 2.5 feet in height. It didn't stop running as it dashed across the road into a smaller field. It was light reddish brown, stood on two legs, and had a long tail that was straight out as it ran. There was no way that it was a lizard known to live in the area. I looked very much like the photo of a toy I found online. Now, no one wanted to believe me, and my friends and family think I mistook it for another lizard, but I know what I saw. Now, until I read your article, I thought I might be going crazy. I do believe there are very strange creatures around here. My ex-husband used to talk about huge birds and walking shadows that he and others had seen on a ranch south of Hebbronville. At one point, several cattle would go missing without a trace. He would never stay there at night. Thanks for reading. Well, this led to another account from another witness. And, I always wondered if what people were seeing were roadrunners. But, every time I did mention that to these witnesses, they definitely said it wasn't a roadrunner. So I don't know. So this other account came to me then as well. Hello, sir. This morning I was told by my neighbor that you had received reports of small T-Rex dinosaurs seen in Hebbronville, Texas, and you mentioned it on a radio show. I live in Fulfurious, Texas, which is about 18 miles east of Hebbronville. Other people and I have seen these creatures. My neighbor and I saw a pair in December 2012 on the roadway behind our houses. We were scared to report our sighting. I know other people in the area have seen the same creatures. A family member from Sabinas Hidalgo in Mexico told me that we saw a big lizard the last time he visited us. He saw it while he was driving near McAllen, Texas. He described the same thing that we had seen. It was 2 to 3 feet in tall with a large head and a long tail. It ran on two legs and was very dark in color. The two creatures we saw were dark brown and walking quickly on two legs. It was about 4:30 p.m. and we watched them for about 20 seconds as they moved towards the dead end of the road. We got a very good look. For a few nights after that, we heard short shrills coming from the brush at the end of the road. A couple of weeks later, my son told me that he and his friends found many quail feathers and deer bones scattered by a tree in the same brush. Now, I did contact the wildlife authority about the remains, but didn't mention about what we had seen. He said it was probably coyotes, though I had not heard of or seen coyotes for a long time. Another neighbor lost a dog about the same time. Again, coyotes were said to be the predators. No remains were ever found. My husband was alarmed and had a high, heavy-duty steel link fence built around the yard so our grandchildren and pets are safe. My neighbor said that she thought it may be chupacabras, which I did not believe in. I don't know what to think now. Do you think that these are real dinosaurs or maybe chupacabra? Now, our dog, which is a Rottweiler, has been acting strangely lately. He acts calm and fearless sometimes, but hides and whines at others. This always happens at night. I think these creatures are around again. So I was able to talk to the witness. The description is comparable to the other accounts, so maybe they are seeing something down in South Texas. I want to thank Anaya for the donation, as well as Mortal Clown. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now, in this next account, a coastal Alabama resident recalls his sighting of a pterosaur-like creature that flew over his vehicle, casting a large shadow. He also heard the air rushing over the flapping wings. So he tells me, "Sir, what I saw that day changed my life. I have never made an official report until today. Around midday in the spring of 2001, I left my home to attend college classes. We lived down a single lane dirt road in the outskirts of Mobile, Alabama, near a large water reservoir called Big Creek Lake. I had the windows of my car down as it was a beautiful day. The radio was off and I was driving slowly because of the dirt road. I heard a strange noise overhead coming towards me, and it piqued my curiosity enough to stop my car and try to see what it was. We lived near a Coast Guard base, so helicopters and other small planes were not unusual to see. But when I heard the noise again, I realized it was unlike anything I'd ever heard. As I leaned my head out the open window, a shadow covered my car and the entire road. Above was the underside of a dark gray leathery animal whose sleek, muscular body carried two enormous bony wings. As it soared over me at a very low height, just above the tree line, the body came to a point. I'm unsure if there were tails or legs arranged linearly. In an instant, the shadow was gone. All sight of the animal was lost due to the surrounding trees, but I heard the noise again. That is when I realized what it was, the sound of air moving across its gigantic wings. I heard the wings flap a couple more times in what seemed like impossible wait between them. Then nothing. I sat in deep disbelief. My life has never been the same. I believe that anything is possible in this weird world. I know what I saw, and I'll never forget it. These things are real. So, about a dozen years ago, sightings of Raystown Lake, an aquatic lake monster in Pennsylvania, has been known throughout the cryptid world, and it's been going on for longer than that. It's been over 20 years. And since that time, there have been a few, if any, reports. Is Raystown Ray real? Well, this witness got a hold of me. I was referred to you by a friend. Can you advise me or direct me to anyone who could explain what I witnessed? Now, on August 29th, 2009, I was fishing from a boat with my son on Raystown Lake, Pennsylvania. It was around 6:45 p.m., and we were making our way back to the landing. We were near the Snydertown portion of the lake where there is a point of land. Now, as we were heading south, I looked toward the west shore after my son started to point at something. I have no idea what this thing was, but it looked like a large, thick black snake with a huge head that bobbed in and out of the water. I moved a little bit closer, but my son was getting scared, so I cut the motor and looked through my binoculars. The body was moving in coils or humps up and down in the river. In the water. The creature had no fins like a fish, and the head was diamond shaped. The weirdest feature was the eyes, which were dark, somewhat small, and slanted. They were not set on the side of the head, but placed forward. I got an excellent look through the binocular. I'd say it was about 50 yards from us when it raised up and its head moved side to side. It made no sound. I'd say it was at least 20 feet long. Now, I have lived in Altoona, Pennsylvania for only a few years, and this is the only second time I have fished this lake. I'm from Wisconsin and have fished many large lakes and rivers, but I've never seen anything this big. We watched for 2 to 3 minutes until it slipped under the surface. My son's description was very similar to mine, but he said he noticed lighter colored whiskers or rays on the chin and face while looking through the binoculars. I had tried to take a photo with my cell phone, but it just blended in with the water and was not discernible. Is this nuts? My friends think we saw a large fish or a mammal, but there is no way it's either. Please give me some guidance or resources to help identify this. I'm skeptical of monsters, ghosts, UFOs, etc., and don't buy into much of the people describe on TV. But now that I've seen something that I can't explain, let's just say I'm confused and frustrated. Now, I have fished Raystown Lake many times and many years ago. It's excellent striped bass fishing. Quite frankly, I've seen some real monsters come out of that lake. Raystown Lake. It's a deep water man-made lake located in Huntington County, Pennsylvania, east of Altoona. and south of State College, Pennsylvania. Now, I emailed back to the witness Bill. He seems to be very sincere about this sighting. Now, he stated that he reported it to another paranormal site but didn't get a response. I had a few questions for Bill, so I sent him an email asking him to attach the photo he took with his cell phone. I wanted to see for myself what he meant by it, but it just blended into the water and was not discernible. So he forwarded two photos that I examined. Since he and his son were on the same level as the creature, there was a dark background of trees as well as some glare coming off the water. I tried to enhance photos, but there was just nothing with much definition, though I could make out some disturbance on the surface of the water. There wasn't much more information that he could offer, but I certainly believe he and his son witnessed something unusual. Now Stan Gordon has done some investigations at Raystown as well, and the TV show Paranormal Witness and Fact or Fake did shows about Raystown. And honestly, they couldn't disprove that this thing was being seen. There is a famous photograph from the lake, but it actually looks like what we would call a brontosaurus on the surface of the lake itself. So I don't know what people have seen. You know, I've been there many times. I've never seen anything, but every time I go, I hear about somebody saying that somebody they know had seen this thing. So are there still sightings going on? I don't know. Now, this next witness states, years ago, back in the 90s, my brother and his friends went three-wheeling ATV and dirt bike riding in Pine Barrens in South Jersey, something they had done on numerous occasions. This particular occasion was the last of such visits. Now, one member of the group broke off from the pack and went deeper into the woods, only to come back tearing butt about 30 minutes later, riding like his life depended on it. He and the group believed he was in serious trouble. When my brother and the rest of the group caught up with him, he was loading up his bike, clearly terrified, later admitting that he had experienced sheer terror because what he encountered was, in his words, from that damn dinosaur movie. That was the only way he could describe it. But he couldn't get a clear view because it was right on his rear tire, trying to take chunks out of it, he said. What he was referring to was a raptor from Jurassic Park movies, but my mother and friends believe it's something to do with the legend of Jersey Devil. Now, this had some impact on this guy that he, such an impact that he'd never go in the Pine Barrens again and would never venture into the woods without being armed. Even to this day, he will not discuss what happened. If it's brought up to him, he may wind up in a fist fight. I mean, not that he's a tough guy or anything, but he's still extremely disturbed by the experience. And so are my brother and the rest of the group from just seeing their buddy's reaction. My brother saw another of the group from that day only a few weeks ago in Colorado, and his buddy said that to this day, this kid will not talk about it and has actually had therapy just to try to forget the whole thing ever took place. So here's a report I received a while back. Now, the preamble to this report, it was on January 20th, 2012, and the location was SR 80, Fort Myers, Florida, in I-75. The time was 8:25 in the morning. Weather conditions, warm, bright sunshine, a few clouds, and the duration of the sighting was about 30 seconds. The report states, I'm a department director for a county in South Florida. I was traveling with another director to a meeting. We were on Palm Beach Boulevard, SR 80, near the ramp at I-75. A traffic accident was blocking two of the three westbound lanes of SR 80, and the traffic was backed up and moving very slowly. Now, to my right was a small lake. Now, while the general area is heavily populated, the lake connects to the Caloosahatchee River and eventually to the Gulf of Mexico. On the other side of the river is a large wildlife refuge. Now, while sitting in traffic, my companion and I noticed a strange disturbance on the lake. I first thought it was a fish jumping. However, the disturbance grew. She suggested that it was a manatee or a dolphin. However, we ruled this out as manatees don't rise this high above the water, and there was no evidence of a dorsal fin. What we saw appeared to be something like a very large snake. I would estimate that it was close to the diameter of a telephone pole, though probably a little narrow and could have been as much as 40 foot long. At some times it would disappear, and at other times it appeared as if it had multiple parts of the body rising out of the water at the same time. It looked almost like a very large snake until it stuck its head out of the water. The head did not look like a snake's, it appeared to have a short snout. I did not see any fins, but my companion said she was certain that she saw one fin. I thought the color of the body was dark gray, but the head appeared to be brown. It was approximately 400 feet away from us throughout the sighting and remained circling one area. Eventually, traffic cleared and we had to drive on. Now, I have lived in South Florida or in Florida for over 20 years. My companion has lived in South Florida all her life. She and her husband have an offshore boat and go fishing far out into the Gulf. Now, neither of us has ever seen anything like this. So, folks, those are the reports. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them for you. All caps, please. Again, I want to thank everybody for their super chats and for their donations. They're very much appreciated. Again, we've got a members chat coming up in I think it's the 6th of August at 9:00 p.m. So I'd like to see as many people as possible take part in this. We're trying to increase the chat size for these presentations. Okay, let's see. Sir Wolf, hi Lon. Where are these sightings generally in Alabama? Some say they're in the Amazon. Well, it said outside of Mobile, Alabama. So, I don't know that area very well. I have heard some sightings of some similar type creatures in the Gulf, anywhere from maybe Pensacola west to Alabama, maybe over to Mississippi. But yeah, that's where this sighting was. So I don't know. Paranormalism Net, do you think sightings of extinct creatures are an indication portals move through time as well as dimensions? Yeah, I have thought that for a while. I remember reading accounts of people who swear they have seen actual saber-toothed tigers manifest out of thin air. Like, maybe a possible portal, something opened up and this thing showed up. I always remember a sighting in Seattle where a woman was walking her dog and this so-called saber-toothed tiger manifested. It scared the dog, so she wasn't the only one that saw it. But are there actual relics around? I don't know. I think it may be interdimensional for the most part. Yeah, and Vinny's over here meowing, so I don't know what he wants. What? You want on the show? Real Truth. Super chat, $5. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I love dinosaur stories. I believe they bleed into our reality from theirs and back into theirs. Yeah, I don't doubt that. I think it's possible. It may not be intentional. It may just be incidental, but with time slips and such, we do hear a lot of strange stories of creatures that you just wouldn't believe would be around at our point in time, but who knows? Dagnammit, is there a relation between the Jersey Devil and the Mothman? People believe the Jersey Devil was a large hammerhead bat. Well, if it is, it's a damn large bat, but is there any relation to the Mothman? There may be. The wing structure is very similar to what we've been hearing about in Chicago. The body style, somewhat different because it's known to have hooves and possibly horse-like legs or dog-like legs. I don't know. You know, we do get descriptions of a lot of different humanoid-like winged creatures. The Jersey Devil, I'm still torn on the whole theory about the Jersey Devil. I've had a lot of reports over the years. I've been there several times. I never saw anything that even would, you know, be classified as some type of winged creature that possibly humanoid, but even matches the description that some people have had of this creature. But I have talked to witnesses, and I've talked to witnesses in person who, seem pretty convinced that they saw something like that. So, all sightings are relative. I mean, it's person's perspective. So who knows? Grandizier 12, Lon. Which dinosaur cryptid is the most believable, whether it be in North America or international? I think it's, even though they're not really dinosaurs, I think the pterosaur or pterodactyl sightings may actually have some basis to them. All birds are relatives of the dinosaurs from that age. And is it possible that large birds that kind of resemble a pterosaur or a pterodactyl may still exist? I don't know. It's possible. There have been so many reports, especially in the Midwest and the upper Midwest over time, that it's hard to discount all these sightings. Of course, the sightings in Iowa, the famous sightings of the Van Meter visitor, or whatever you want to call that, and the description that seems to be very pterodactyl-like. And some of the photographs of this creature are pretty convincing. So I don't know what people are seeing. Is it possible? Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of things are possible. But could it be also a time traveler or some type of time slip being? We really don't know. Dagnammit, have you ever heard of the Moore's Beach monster of Santa Cruz? The neck of the monster is described as being 20 feet long. I've heard something about that. I have never received a report about that. I've seen reports. I don't know what people are seeing. But then again, it could be very similar to what a lot of other people are seeing as well. So maybe it's a relic. Maybe it's something that science just doesn't know about. It actually lives in the oceans. We don't know. I find it fascinating because some of the reports I get are pretty interesting. Jose Sanchez, there was a sighting over the African Serengeti where fighter jets are on patrol. Pilot looks down to see a herd of small dinos running scared. Then seconds later and looks again and they're gone. Yeah, maybe it was a mirage or some type of other animal at a height that they just, know what it was, and it just looked like something unusual. You know, the Serengeti Plains, I've heard a lot of weird sightings of things there as well. But do we really know everything that's there? I don't know if we do or not. Can Quatch, any reports of dinosaurs in the off limits area of the Grand Canyon? There are a lot of stories from the Grand Canyon. There have been old reports from indigenous people of, of course, the ant people, but of similar creatures as well that were humanoid, but kind of had that strange dinosaur look to them. I don't know what it was. The record is pretty thin on that, but I've had investigators tell me that they have received reports of something very similar to the ant people. So you want to consider that as being a dinosaur-like creature? I don't know. Grand is year 2 or 12. Lon, William DeFalco dropped a vid, the Partridge Creek Monster, living dinosaur found within the Yukon Territory. Any reports you may have on that? I've never received any reports from there. The only thing I've ever gotten out of the Yukons was alien and craft sightings. I don't think I've ever had a cryptid sighting, though I could be wrong, but nothing like that. Anything else, folks? Leakum, the spicy lizard. With the descriptions, do you find the dinosaurs look more like the old world 1990s or are pulp culture depictions? Or they are more like scientific accurate? Also, got a favorite dinosaur? I don't really have a favorite dinosaur. I don't know. There have been a lot of depictions of sightings of dinosaur-like creatures seen in the deepest parts of Africa for years. Um, Anywhere from something flying to something look like a large brontosaurus in certain parts of the deep jungle. Um, are people really seeing these things? I guess. I mean, a lot of the indigenous people have described them as well, but are they relics of the past or something that still lives among us? It's hard to tell. I'd like to think there are, honestly. As far as a dinosaur that I like or that I prefer or interested in, not really any of them, other than the pterodactyls or the pterosaurs, which I do find fascinating because we do get a fair amount of sightings of these things. Okay. Well, folks, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight and watching and chatting and donating. It's really appreciated. Your support makes all this possible. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you have a sighting or encounter report that you'd like to be considered for the show, as well as posted on Fans of Monsters when I finally do get the website up, and I will tell you that it's probably going to be a couple more weeks. They're just starting. They got the homepage all done. They got that all straightened out. They're putting the pages in. I'm waiting for the next mock up to come after that when I approve everything and we start connecting all the links and start adding reports into it. We'll be good to go. But it's probably going to be another week or two. So if you do have anything that you do want to send to me, send it to my email at lonstrickler@phantomsandmonsters.com. So until we meet again, stay healthy and safe. Have a good night and have a great weekend. Talk to you later.